don't just settle. So make sure that you are vocal and just explain to them, the challenges that it brings.
You're listening to the Care Podcast, brought to you by Unique Senior Care. We're here to share honest, practical conversations to help you navigate care. And in these episodes, we're welcoming Lucy, our Director of People. Lucy has a wealth of experience in the care industry, specifically around people management, finding, recruiting and training the right carers for outstanding care. Thank you so much for joining us, Lucy.
Hi, Jo. Thank you for having me.
We're thinking in this episode about why familiar faces matter so much. So what do you think it is about consistency in care and having the same person or the same regular team that's so important?
Yeah, I think it's really important from a personal point of view. I think that we can be supporting, clients with anxiety. I think the personal connection is really important. So if you've constantly got a different person coming in, morning and lunch and evening and the next day, it can be difficult for the client and also family members to build that relationship. You're almost starting the reset button again, aren't you? So the important part is, the continuity, getting to know your client. So when you're going in, you know what Mrs. Bourne likes. You're not having to, go from the beginning, read the care plans and kind of learn from afresh as well. So, yeah, really important continuity of care, helps reduces anxiety. It helps the client or helps the client feel more almost like relaxed and at ease because you're talking about them, like you know them as well.
And I think it's a big thing, isn't it, having someone into your home, particularly, some of the things we help with are, having a shower
Intimate,
or having a wash or getting dressed. That's a big deal to trust somebody with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And it is hard to build trust, from day one if you're going into a new client's home. So if you can, you have the same regular clients, as I say, what Mrs. Bourne needs when you're helping her. And it gives them that, professional, kind of like bespoke service as well for them.
Yeah. So much, an uncomfortable situation, but actually, if you know that person and you see them, several mornings a week, it's going to make that difficult situation just a lot easier.
It would, yeah, because you all, again, you'll pick up on things. So you might say, actually, I saw my client on Monday. I've seen them again today. It's Tuesday, and they've progressed. So it means that you can, hopefully pick up on things a lot quicker as well. So the continuity for the caregiver, I think, is also important as well. So clients, their family, and the caregivers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you say, you're more likely to notice the changes if you're consistently going to that person. You understand what their normal is. Yeah. You're more likely to notice when something's a little bit kind of different. And again, coming back to gut instinct, which we talked about in last episode, when you know somebody really well, sometimes that gut instinct will kick in to sense that things are not quite right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you think can be the impact if, somebody is receiving care and different faces are going in all the time?
I think it can heighten anxiety. I think there's probably a frustration there. And I don't think it kind of epitomises, the quality care that the client necessarily deserves because they're constantly having to build this rapport and this relationship with a new person. So I think it can be quite tough on them, to be honest.
Yeah, and sometimes, that caregiver might be brilliant and they might be going in to do a good job. But if they don't know that person and that person doesn't feel known by them and have that sense of, I recognise this person, I feel comfortable with them, it's not a great experience on either side, is it?
We've had clients literally not let people in because they didn't recognise the face. And I think when people have got dementia and they're living, with memory loss, I think it's really challenging.
And the other thing we see on the flip side is where, someone's actually very resistant to care at first, really doesn't want anybody coming in, but actually because that same person goes, before long, it's like, where's my friend? I'm really looking forward to seeing this person. And sometimes families are surprised how quickly that can turn around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard stories of that. So adamant that they wouldn't have care within a matter of weeks. Their caregiver, was almost like part of the family. So really important that we get that right as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And consistency is a key kind of component of that, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah, it is. And I say it's twofold because it will help support the client, but equally it's a better experience for the caregiver as well.
And what about when you've got someone whose needs are perhaps becoming greater and greater, somebody who's got a progressive illness or they're deteriorating, becoming more frail, and their needs are becoming more complex? What makes continuity so important in those kind of situations?
Again, it's picking up on the cues, I think, is really important. Again, that can be verbal or non-verbal. And I think it gives our caregivers confidence because they'll say, actually, I know this client, so it might be a bit of a difficult situation, but making sure that they ask for the support and they're signposted, they know where to go to get the help. And then being reassuring, to the client. Like I say, it could be just a reassuring, touch of the hand, their favourite cup of tea, reading something. So knowing them and what would help to de-escalate the situation is really important.
And I think sometimes when people have more complex needs, there might be some specialist training that's perhaps needed by caregivers.
Yep.
And then if you're sending different people in all the time, that doesn't work.
Absolutely, yes. So it might be that the caregiver, doesn't have that specialist training. So it's going to be more important that the client does keep that continuity of care with the carer who said has got the right skills, experience, training and qualifications.
And I know sometimes we actually look for caregivers that have a specific set of experience and skills. We might try and match them with a particular client when we're right at the recruitment stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be, dementia experience. We've got a lot of clients who have dementia experience. It could be motor neuron disease. So we always try and do that matching as soon as possible because the matching is so important. It can be the make or break of a care package.
Yeah. So if I, for example, was looking for care for my mum, or I was receiving care and it wasn't consistent, there wasn't that continuity, what kind of things might I notice? What might be the impact on me and my relative?
Yeah, so you might pick up on cues from your relative. You might just sort of think that they're not actually themselves. You might see a bit of agitation. Might be a bit of frustration. They might kind of withdraw a little bit. There might be a little bit of decline in your relative as well. So it's really important that you pick up on these signs as early as possible. So my advice would always be to speak to the company. Don't rest on anything. Don't accept anything. You've got to really push for it and say, I've noticed that there's a churn of caregivers coming in. What is your, kind of your targets for having the same continuity of caregivers with your clients? So asking these questions is really important. Do some benchmarking, call other care companies, find out the comparison of the questions around caregiver churn and how many caregivers go back to the same client time and time again, because that's truly when you'll get the quality care for your relative when you've got the same people going back time and time again. So really important.
And when you say churn, tell me a little bit more about what that means.
So churn will be basically it's like the numbers of kind of staff who are leaving. So if there's a high churn rate, that to me would be a warning sign because people are coming in, doing the work, they build a connection with the client and then they're leaving. So that client has got that relationship with them and then they're going. So if there's a high churn rate, that for me would be an indicator of a bit of a concern. So it's looking at lower churn rates where staff you've got a longer tenure, and say asking the support team how many caregivers go back to the same relative or client, time and time again is a really good indicator.
And I guess another way you might notice that if you get the rota for the care, and that person that your mum was getting on really well with last week has suddenly disappeared and isn't coming anymore, or if there's
gaps in the rota, if they haven't gone weeks ahead with the rota, that would be an alarm bell for me as well, because you need to be able to schedule weeks in advance. Yeah, really important.
Okay. And what would be your one kind of takeaway bit of advice for somebody who's either receiving care or looking to arrange care for a loved one around this issue of consistency?
I think communication is really important. So I think you need to be able to speak to the care supervisor, the care manager, the registered manager. Don't just settle. So make sure that you are vocal and just explain to them, the challenges that it brings, and don't stop until you get what you want. Really important.
Great advice. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for listening. We hope that this episode has given you some confidence, practical advice and reassurance about navigating your own care journey. I've been Jo Cleary, host of the Care Podcast. We hope that you'll join us next time.